Kakamega Governor Fernandes Barasa now says the county governments will partner with key stakeholders to conserve the indigenous Kakamega forest. Barasa revealed that the United Nations Development Program has committed to supporting fencing of the rainforest, which has over 1,000 bird species. And as Timothy Kipnusu now reports, Kakamega County will receive approximately 200 million shillings to help in capacity building of climate action committees.
Just a day after the Africa Climate Summit 2023 ended, calls for implementation of recommendations from various member states is now rife. Kakamega Governor Fernandes Barasa has lauded the move by the United Nations Development Program to help counties achieve the climate action.
We are taking the initiative of conserving the forest very seriously by partnering with key stakeholders like the Rhino Arc, UNDP, on matters fencing the forest. We are also asking them to provide alternatives to our villagers who depend on the forest on firewood.
This even as counties are set to receive the climate resilience investment grants from the financing locally led climate action to help mitigate climate change effects across the country.
The governors will really going to make a positive contribution towards this program because the focus of having the capacity building for the ward committees will go a long way in supporting the agenda that we have on tree growing.
Elsewhere, a group of young scientists drawn from different countries in Africa, including Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, and Democratic Republic of Congo, now want relevant global climate financing organizations to address the loss and damage fund for African nations as they champion efforts geared towards mitigating climate change.
Sisi kama vijana tunapaza sauti zetu, tunaomba na tunatoa rai kwa serikali pamoja na viongozi kutoka sehemu tofauti duniani waweze kuweka sawa na kutengeneza sera, kutengeneza sheria ambazo zinaweza create mazingira salama kwa kila kijana, kwa kila mwananchi, kwa sababu mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi hayamwathiri mtu mmoja.
And we are here to advocate for just transition. We need immediate action regarding the climate crisis. What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now. The 100 billion climate finance promise is one of the indicators to check that the climate action is being worked on. This 100 billion has not been paid in full. We are demanding that the climate debts be paid, and then how do we check and evaluate that those who receive this fund are those that are directly impacted by the climate crisis?
Meanwhile, the climate activists are now calling for adequate funding to deal with the adverse effects of climate change in the country and Africa at large.
Are we funding the right production systems, or are we funding production systems that will impact negative on the environment and also on human health and public health for that matter?
We want climate finance that really supports the African continent, not puts them in a further debt crisis than they already are. And lastly, we want, reparations and for our communities, for our farmers, for our water.
There's no money for loss and damage, and we are suffering for adaptation. So that's what we would hear from that summit. As we see it right now, it's not even on the agenda. The issue of loss and damage, adaptation, and we want those kinds of outcomes.
In African university, students have been challenged to take a lead role in research on climate change and find solutions to resultant consequences. Namibia Vice President Ngolo Mbumba said it is time the continent relied on its own resources on matters of scientific research and more so the human resource.
Institutions of learning, or especially institutions of higher learning in Africa, must collaborate. We must exchange information, the good practices, knowledge, and we must train our youth to the best of their ability. We want them to become real scientists.
Ndumba spoke during the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the International University of Management, Namibia, and Mount Kenya University, MKU, in Thika.